excited to introduce our speaker, Patty Medina, who is the Associate Athletic Director of Student Athletic Development and Inclusion Excellence at American University, where she leads initiatives that combine leadership development, career readiness, mental health awareness, and diversity, equity, and inclusion for over 300 student athletes. A first-generation fellow Latina and proud Mexican immigrant, Patty has dedicated her career to empowering underrepresented communities in athletics and higher education. She is the founder of the Hooper Mentality Foundation and Latinx and Athletics. Two organizations focus on promoting career development, empowerment, and mental health awareness for athletes, particularly in the Latinx community. Her work has been recognized nationally, earning her multiple awards and a feature in Forbes magazine for her DEI leadership. Patty is passionate about creating pathways for others, drawing from her own journey to inspire students and professionals alike to dream boldly, work relentlessly, and stay rooted in their identity. She will be speaking to us about From Salsa to Strategy, leading with culture, purpose, and heart. Without further ado, Patty Medina.
Well, good afternoon, and it's an honor to be here, and even a bigger honor to be introduced by Marilyn as a past president, and one that, similar to what I do in my profession, is create pathways for other Latinos and Latinas. So I'm not surprised that 6 of the 9 Latino members came in under her presidency. So with one of the things that I wanted to, first off, thank Donnie, Marilyn, and also Max for the competitive spirit that you've just instilled in me, because I think it's one of the things that as Latinas and Latinos that we continue to do is show up in spaces that aren't meant for us, right? And so when asked about this opportunity, I thought, what is DC Rotary? What is a Rotary Club even? And as I did my research, I realized that Rotary Club literally exemplify and represent everything that Latino and Hispanic cultures embody, right? And today I really just want to talk about those three things that are important to me, but that I saw resonate throughout Rotary Club missions, biographies, and as Marilyn was introducing the new members, like hearing tangible realities, that really resonated with me, because you can talk about it, but how are you going to be about it, right? And I think those are the things that really separate the talkers from the doers. And a lot of times the people that are part of these clubs, the people that represent these clubs and these associations and these communities are the doers. And I mean, it's no surprise that you're up here, and it was like an auction, doing fundraising in here, and it's amazing. So I want to share a little bit about where I'm from and who I am. So why am I here? Who is this lady? What is she doing here? And so I have the honor of being asked to come and speak to you today, specifically because it is Hispanic Heritage Month. And as Marilyn mentioned, today is the last day. So it's an even more honor to be here today, and that this meeting happened to fall on October 15th. Not only that, it's an honor to represent American University at this podium. And so just found out Donnie is an alum, COGOT alum. And so, yeah, and we got a few other alums. So listen, everywhere I've been, every AU alum that I have met, they also exemplify everything that I'm going to talk about today. So when I started thinking about the presentation, and I said, what should I talk about? What is something that I tell people, or that I should speak to people who are experts in their field? That's what you all are, right? You're experts in your fields. And so a lot of times you hear speeches about things that to you already either they don't matter or it's not of interest. And so one of the things I wanted to do today is not tell you about myself, but really show how Rotary Club brings out a lot of the qualities that us Latinos and Hispanics bring into our space. So as I mentioned, my name is Patty Medina. I am currently the Associate Athletic Director at American University, and my focus is student athlete development and inclusive excellence. When I first started at American University, my title was Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. And as you could probably guess, we had a title change a little bit right before November. And so, yeah, so now I'm student athlete development and inclusive excellence, but at the end of the day, the work is the work, right? And so we continue to do the work of inclusive excellence. And quite frankly, I like inclusive excellence a lot better than DEIB because it's such a long term. So I was born in Mexico, Sonora, to be exact, and I am the immigrant in my family. I am an immigrant in my family. My son, I have a 17-year-old son who is first generation, technically first generation, having born here in the United States. I came to the United States on a work visa with my dad. My dad worked in the strawberry fields with Cesar Chavez, and we came to the U.S. legally. And while we were here, a lot of those work visas were canceled or not renewed. And so we ended up staying, and I will admit we stayed illegally. We stayed illegally in the United States, but at that point we had already been here about 15 years. So when I was getting ready, I came to the US, 9 years old, and I fell in love with education. And the reason I fell in love with education is because I realized that the American dream had everything to do with the education. If you could speak to rooms, as I'm doing today, if you could really show your education, show your relevance and your importance and what you bring to any and every room, you will be able to succeed in this country. And so we all came, and a lot of us from Mexico and from other Latin American countries, we come to the US for the American dream. And I am one of those people that came here for the American dream. And so when I started school, I started school, and I laugh because it's crazy to think about it now, but I came to the US and I did not speak any English. And at the time, I'm from California, or I grew up in California, San Diego to be exact. Sorry, you got your first sunburn in San Diego. But, one of the things for me that I realized is that I entered education and it was very much sink or swim. At the time, there were no bilingual classes. And it was about 3 years shy of Prop 85 passing in California. Prop 85 allowed for bilingual classes in the elementary school system. And so I was introduced. Here I am, a 9-year-old coming from Mexico, and I start first grade in the US. And my teacher comes up to me, didn't go up to my parents because my parents wouldn't understand either. And she said, either you learn English or you don't pass this class, you don't pass this grade. I said, okay, well, my parents don't speak English, so they can't teach it to me. So what we would do is we would go to the library and I don't know if y'all remember, now they're called audiobooks, but at the time they were books on tape. And I went and I listened to books on tape, and I followed and listened. And at the end of the year, I was awarded with an academic recognition for having learned English in first grade within that school year. And thank you. So I realized that, education, I said, okay, this is going to get me in different rooms. And as I continued to go through education, I was taking AP classes, 4.2 GPA, just loved education. And one of the things that I realized is I was still an illegal immigrant. And so when all my friends were applying for colleges with less GPA, lower GPA than mine, I couldn't apply for colleges because I didn't have a Social Security card at the time. And at the time, there was no DACA, there was no DREAM Act, there weren't any of these opportunities for people like myself. And so I went to my counselor's office and I said, hey, what do I have to do to go to college? I really want to go to college. And she's like, well, you have to have a Social Security. And I said, how do I get a Social Security card? And she said, well, you have to be a U.S. citizen. And I said, well, how do I become a U.S. citizen? She's like, well, you either have to wait till you're 18 and take the test, or one of your dad, who is here in the U.S., would have to take the citizenship test. And at the time, it was only in English. Now it's in 13 different languages. But at the time, the U.S. citizenship test was only in English. And if you remember what I said earlier, my parents don't speak English. So this was November of my senior year, when people were already getting letter admissions to universities. I went to my dad and I said, hey, we're going to study for this U.S. citizenship. And it's crazy because a lot of the questions that were on the citizenship test were even things that I wasn't even being taught in my AP U.S. history class. they had to regurgitate the beginning paragraph of the Constitution. When I hear "We the people of the United States of America," I literally regurgitate the entire paragraph because I had to teach my dad how to say it and how to know it. And so, you know, he ended up passing it on the first try. Ended up passing it. And so here I am. By then, he passed it in April. I turned 18 in May. And so had he not passed it in April, I would have had to take it myself in May and study for it. By then, I would have already been ready for it because I helped them. But I say that because if you know, senior year, May of your senior year to apply for universities is very late, very late. And so at the time I said, okay, I wanted to go to San Diego State. I couldn't go because, it was too late for admission. So I ended up going to an NAI school in the Bay Area. And then from there, I ended up moving back to San Diego and finished at San Diego State. I say all that to say that it's humbling to show up every day because, and I'll try not to get emotional, but I work at a university, you guys. I am the highest ranking Latina at American University. And not just in athletics, but in the entire university. In the entire university, I'm the highest ranking Latina. And you know what the irony of it is? It's American University in Washington, D.C. It's the Patriot League, and we're the Eagles, and our school colors are red, white, and blue. Like, how ironic is that you have a Mexican, full thoroughbred Mexican, as the highest ranking Latina at your institution? And so it's amazing. Every day I wake up and I'm just grateful for the opportunities that are presented to me because I am a true believer that education will get us everywhere. So I definitely went on a tangent on that, but one of the things that really resonated with me with Rotary Club was that the mission of the Rotary Club is all about service, connection, and helping others time. And that's something that I show up and try to do every day. And I would be remiss to say that I'm up here and it had nothing to do with anybody before me, and it did. Marilyn, Max, and all the other 9 members that are part of DC Rotary Club. Like, I didn't know what Rotary Club was. And now knowing that there's prestigious members, Latino members in this association, it is inspiring. And so, the 3 things that I was going to talk about, and I'll go through them a little bit, but there's 3 things for me that Rotary Club represents and that also represent Latino culture. And it's family, respect, and hard work. And I said familia, respeto, y trabajo duro. And those 3 things for me have literally catapulted me through so many opportunities. And it's funny because when we talk about these 3 things, right? Family, Rotary Club is family. Like, just sitting here, I could feel the family. Like, Max joking about, or not, maybe he was very serious about the speakers not being great. I'm like, I love that. Let's talk some ish. That's what families do, right? We joke, especially Latinos. Like, you can't get a double-sided compliment from a Latino, then you're not family, right? And so for me, it was one of those things where it's like, I see you, Max, and I appreciate you because it made me feel at home. Like, for me, it was like, oh yeah, even Marilyn was like, he's just joking. I was like, no, I love this. Like, please, because that's how I grew up. Like, I can tell you to this day, and it's probably really toxic, but my dad doesn't give compliments. He gives like these like, oh, so you've been working out, huh? Instead of saying like, hey, you look good, So family is something that Rotary Club represents. And I appreciate you accepting me today into your family and allowing me to be here because you don't know what you don't know, right? And if the only Latina that you ever encounter, which isn't the case in this situation because you have some amazing Latinas and Latinos in the space, but if ever, the way I walk around this world is that if every person I meet, if I am the only Latina that they ever come across, I want them to walk away and be like, wow, I need to meet more Patties. I need to be around more Patties. I need to be around more Marilyns. I need to be around more Maxes. Like that is it. That is it's a heavy. Are you Latino too? Well, listen, that's another thing about Familia is we take honorary Latinos. It don't matter if you're 2%, 1%, -5%, we will take you. The next one was respeto, right? Respeto, so respect. Rotary Club, I know for a fact, everyone here at some point or currently in their career is at the highest level of their career, and many accomplishments for all of you. And I think one of the things that people tend to forget is that respect is not given, it's earned. And everyone here throughout your trajectory, throughout your career, you have earned so much respect. And I think that's one of the things that for me, it really resonated when I did my research on Rotary Club is that everyone here respects one another, even with the jokes, even with all of that. Like, you know, your family, but at the end of the day, we respect each other. And that was one of the things with, you know, my Latino background. And then lastly, trabajo duro, which is hard work. And it's funny because, and I'm sure the Latinos in here and minorities in here in general will say, one of the biggest compliments I get is, wow, you are so resourceful. You are so resourceful. And I start to think, and I'm like, is that a compliment or is that like, wow, I didn't know you could get it done. And so one of the things I realized is that similar to DC, to Rotary clubs, you all get things done. You know, whether you have the resources or not, you get them done. You are also resourceful. And I realize that we joke all the time in my office. They're like, Pat can turn water into wine, you know, and it's really because I don't have the resources, but it's not in me to not succeed. It's not in me to not give 100%. And you can always count that I'm going to do my part of whatever group project. I know there's a trend on TikTok and Instagram or something. It's like, oh, I want to be part of the group A project of everyone that does their part, right? But a lot of times that doesn't happen. And I think it's important to realize that it has a lot to do with also your upbringing and your character and who you are and how you want to do your part. And so Rotary Club represents that. Everyone here does their part of exemplifying what Rotary Club is, whether you're in this room or out in the public and in the space. And I mean, it said it in the introduction to the new members. It's like, again, it's tangible realities. And what are you doing to make these tangible realities? So again, it's an honor to be here. I was supposed to go through this whole slide, and I really just was very warm in the introductions and hearing Marilyn say what she said and reading the induction ceremony paragraph of what you all represent. And I think it's important to really keep those in mind. And again, family, respect, and hard work are the three things that have gotten me to where I am. And quite frankly, I don't feel like I've hit the pinnacle of my success just yet. I feel like I'm just now getting started because even though I am where I am, there's really no threshold for us, and not just for Latinos in general, but just for people in general. And I think the more you continue to challenge yourself, and not that you don't want to be complacent and not be happy, but there should be an innate self-challenge, an innate motive, right? And for me, it's knowing that my parents can look and be like, it was worth it. You know, when we were in the United States illegally because the work visa wasn't renewed, grandfather, grandmother, people passed away because if we left the country, we wouldn't be able to come back. And so we had to make sacrifices. And, you know, I tell people all the time, I'm jealous of people that have relationships with their grandparents because I left when mine was 10 and I went back when she was 19. And by then, you know, she's a lot older, barely remembered me, and we didn't have FaceTime. We didn't have Zoom. We didn't have any of that. So again, family is the number one foundational factor for Latinos, and I can see it that it's the foundational factor for Rotary Club. So thank you all for having me. For those that are tech savvy, that's my QR code with contact information. But yeah, I would love to take questions if you have any questions, and it's an honor to be here.
You alluded to the fact that universities are under government pressure regarding DEI now.
Yes.
As you think about your community students, do you believe that law enforcement in this country is racially profiling Latinos and Hispanics. And so, what should we be doing about it?
Thank you. Great question. And the short answer is yes. The long answer is there are times where I have to personally acknowledge my privilege because I could I'm white passing, I guess you could say, right? Or exotic passing. I could be driving a car and not be questioned. But my dad looks straight Latino, the typical Latino, right? He works in construction or worked in construction. And so I saw firsthand, not just now, but it's, and honestly, we've gone through this before and we've had this discussion in athletics, right? We've gone through this before. It used to be affirmative action, and then it became critical race theory, and then it was DEI, and now it's inclusive excellence. And then next is going to be another terminology, right? And we're always going to be in this fight of diversity and culture. But I'd be remiss to say if this wasn't happening, and this is probably like where I'm optimistic to a fault, is that it's bringing a lot of awareness to privilege. It's bringing a lot of awareness to what we can do to help and support people. It's bringing a lot of awareness to those that said, oh, I didn't think voting this way would impact me. Now I have to close my farms, or now I have to, you're hearing all these you're seeing these videos of people saying, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. I thought my wife, who's an immigrant, is fine because I'm married to her. And I think that those are the things that the more we continue to be knowledgeable of these things. And I think the thing that we're missing most is empathy. Too many times we think negative narrative right away instead of thinking, this is someone's parent, someone's child, and don't disagree. Every culture, every race has their bad apples. But the majority is not the majority, especially here. If you think about it, there's a lot of little patties that are getting deported because they're here illegally. And so if I had gotten deported, I wouldn't be here now, and I just traveled across country for the first time and had an anxiety attack in customs because I remember my mom telling me, like, don't speak to anybody, don't say anything, like, just keep your head down, keep walking. And here I am at 36 years old. This was 3-4 years ago, 36 years old, walking through customs to go to Colombia for a student, alternative break, and I'm having an anxiety attack at customs because it triggered that. So to answer your question, what can we do? Just become more aware of the resources, especially if you're seeing something happening, like what those are, what the legal opportunities are for them. Even yesterday, or my son and I, we love thrift shopping, and so we were outside a thrift store that is predominantly Latino, and there was an organization passing out information cards for immigrants and saying, these are your rights and these are the things that you can do. And so even on campus, and this is a safe space, we had fake ICE agents at American University. We had people that went and did cricket, the cricket machine, went and got cricket machine and made an ice vest and walked around campus just to scare our student athletes. And so those are things for us that we continue to try to become more knowledgeable.
The universities have included international students as a source of income. They would pay full freight, wealthy Mexicans, whatever. And also, it's harder for international students to come to the United States to study here now because the visa programs for them is less open. How is American University adjusting to the financial pressure that this type of environment is presented to it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And even when we talk about international students, when it comes to athletics, I don't know how familiar all of you are with NIL, name, image, likeness, and the revenue that is now being proposed for student athletes. International student athletes can't partake in any of that. So they, because they are technically immigrant in our country and regarding tax brackets and all that, they can't even partake in that revenue. And so that in the athletic side of it, that's something that we're dealing with every day. Across campus, we have a department for international students that we try to help out and again bring resources there. We're waiting to hear about, because the F1 visa was already, I believe the amount that you had to have was about $10,000 to $20,000. You had to have a sponsor for $10,000 to $20,000, and the current administration is trying to make that $100,000 sponsor, which is very difficult because again, there are some wealthy international student athletes, but then the majority aren't from very affluent company or families. So TBD is the answer, because again, it's such a moving space right now. There's not like there's a lot of hypotheticals, and so there's a lot of threats, and so a lot of institutions don't really want to react on threats and wait till they actually happen. But then it also hurts us because like, do we prepare for the worst, hope for the best? And that's kind of what we've been doing. So I say that to acknowledge that our enrollment is down because a lot of our student athletes were international students, especially at American University. And the funny thing is, I just found out that a lot of international student athletes, the reason they come to American is because when they Google American University, which not just American, but any American university, we're the first to pop up on their Google. So when they Google, I want to go to an American university, it's like, oh, American University. So they come here for that. So I just found that out and I thought it was funny.
I just want to say a couple of things. Number one is we need Latino members in our club. If you could school us as to how we could get Latino members from the organization, from school, we'd like to do that. So the other thing is, I also teach golf, and I teach golf to, and we sponsor young kids, kids, to play golf. And that's the most important thing. And that is also my job. I sit on that board. And what they asked me to do is to get some Latinos involved in school, and Maryland's help with that.
So as Marilyn mentioned, I co-founded Latinx in Athletics, which is an association that brings light and exposure and awareness to the Latinos and Latinas within higher ed. It's a free association. We don't charge membership. We just want to create this Rolodex of who exists and where. And at the moment, we're at 130 members. And they're all Latinas and Latinos from all over the country, and they're all in higher education. They're all in athletics. And interestingly enough, I was just gifted my first golf clubs. And the reason being, and this is the interesting part. So we host at American University, and maybe DC Rotary will be a sponsor for our next one, but we host an annual golf tournament at American University. And I went, last year was my first year there, and I drove around the little cart. I was like, oh, I've never been on a golf course. Like, I'll drive the little cart and pass out waters. And so I was sitting with our wrestling coach, who has been at American University now for about 20 years. And he's like, hey, he was like, is this your first time on a golf course? Or no, he says, have you ever played golf? And I said, no. And he's like, I said, oh, actually, this is my first time on a golf course. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah. I was like, look around. I said, my people are usually the ones doing the landscaping. We're not the ones playing. And he was like, I never realized that, right? And I said, yes. I said, and I can promise you that is more than likely the Latino experience. And so as we're talking about that, he has 4 Latinos on the wrestling team. One of them, Ray, pulls up on the little cart, super happy because he's on the cart, and pulls up, and coach says, hey, Ray, question for you. Is this your first time on a golf course? He's like, yeah, coach, this is so fun. And he turned and looked at me, and he's like, we got to change that. So I was gifted golf clubs. I don't know what to do with them yet or which one's which, but I will learn. Yes. And to your point, my son, I'm also going to teach my son, or hopefully, we take lessons, because again, these are infrastructures that we're not, like, again, Rotary clubs, I didn't know what they were. I thought I don't know what I thought actually. I just thought it was just people hanging out, that part of boats or something. I don't know, so it's something that I would love to help with that engagement. especially at American University, our student population is about 48% Latino. So yeah, which makes it even crazier that I'm the highest ranking Latina when half of our population identifies as such. So, but yeah, no, I would love to help and just even I'm also working with Latina Style Magazine. They're doing a few exposure to more Latinas in sports, and so there's a lot of synergy there, and I would love to talk.
We're gonna plant a tree in your honor down in the tidal basin. And this is your certificate.
Oh, this
If you
is
can spare with your
amazing.
17-year-old, because that shade is gonna cover him. All right?
They say we plant trees that we won't get to sit under, so this is a great.